This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
So happy that you're here with us today. We didn't have one last week, and 2 weeks ago it was just me, and I was complaining and griping about Josh. I thought about should I not do that, and then I second guessed it afterwards, putting it out because I was pretty upset with him, but I just thought, well, that's what it's like. So, good, bad, or ugly, whatever it is, it's how I was feeling. So Josh, I love you.
I love you.
And I'm happy you're here.
Me too.
And I want to get to that subject, but we have to start with the obvious.
Yeah.
For you and I.
Yeah. Einstein. Einstein had to leave us on Monday. Was it Monday?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
And right now, Mom, you're having a hard time even talking, it looks like, because you're crying already.
Yeah.
He wasn't doing well for a long time.
Well, mentally is the hard part. Mentally, he was sharp as ever. Sassy pants as ever.
Yeah.
But he had like arthritis in his back end. Now Einstein, though, we've talked about him before, but I'll just describe him. It's a 13-pound Bichon that was just a little white, fluffy, curly, cute cotton ball, just sassy.
Yeah.
Always had to have the last word, spoiled rotten.
Yeah.
In his last days, he couldn't walk, so he really had a hard time. His back end would give out.
Yeah.
And, so what does a puppy parent do when their dog can't walk anymore? You get him a stroller.
Yeah.
And it's the summertime, it's hot, so what else do? You get him a fan to hook onto the stroller to keep him cool. And I think what we'll probably do is, if anybody goes to the website, you're probably aware that I haven't done blogs in a while because of the absolute upheaval in the renovation and losing Nana, and it's just been a while now.
Yeah.
Anyway, and RJ does the artwork for each of the blogs, and he hasn't done it, and that's because RJ has lost his Nana and his Pappy.
Yeah.
And that is his grandma and his grandpa.
Yeah.
His mom's mom and dad.
Yeah.
So there's been an awful lot of loss for us, starting with Oliver a year and a half ago, and then Nana 4 months ago, and then Einstein on Monday. But Einstein, he's just my sidekick. There was not many places that you would ever see me without Einstein.
Yeah.
And they would tease me too. People would say, does that dog's feet ever hit the ground? Ever touch the ground? Because he was always riding on my shoulder.
Yeah.
But anyway, he was 13 and had these issues in his back, hips, and legs. And then one day, a few weeks ago, he was heading out, maybe a month ago, he was heading out. Usually in the morning I would carry him out because the deck, when there's dew, it could get slippery and it's hard for him to walk anyway, so I would carry him across the deck. Well, this one day I didn't get to him fast enough. He went out and there are 2 other pups that live here with us. Nellie, who is a Westie, who is 15. That's your sister Bug's dog, but she lives with us. And Bella, who goes by Bean, and she is my mom and my pappy's Nana and pappy's
Bichon.
It's 7 years old. Anyway, so Einstein made it out without me picking him up quick enough, and he was on the deck, and the girls knocked into him, and I saw his back right leg go out in a really funky way, and he never recovered from that. He wasn't a candidate for surgery, and he could barely walk. So since that happened, I would have to go, and when he would go to the bathroom, I'd have to support his hips, I would hold his little hips so he could go to the bathroom, and, as if he wasn't spoiled enough before that point, then of course that point came and he was just rotten.
At that point you were literally wiping his butt for him.
yeah, I did.
I say that jokingly, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would do anything for that little boy. And I love all dogs. I love all animals.
Yeah.
Snakes kind of creep me out, but I still think that they are pretty cool.
Yeah.
But so I just feel like I just love all animals, and every now and then I think people have the honor of meeting an animal that the best way that I can just say it is like touches your soul. And I call them, like Einstein was my heart dog, and so it was, he was different than any that I've ever had, any that I've ever come across. He was like an extension of me. We were that close.
Yeah.
Like I said, there were very few places that I went that without him, and most of the time, if there was a place that he couldn't go, I would try it anyway. But then if he couldn't, I just didn't go there.
Yeah.
And the exception was like when Nana was in the hospital and I needed to go stay with her, and but anyway.
And he, whenever he wasn't with you, and I would watch him sometimes, whenever you'd have to go someplace like that, and he could not stand being away from you.
Yeah. You guys said he screamed, and then I heard it one time.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So I got him some pot, some doggy pot, see if that could calm him down and help him out.
Yeah.
And then we ultimately settled on these calming chews.
Yeah.
That seemed to help. But the answer was I just didn't leave him.
Yeah.
But he's dealt with so much, like the last years, I would say a year and a half since Oliver passed away. Einstein wasn't alone.
Right.
Because he would get so upset and scream and just, I didn't want him to have to experience that.
Right.
So somebody was always here with him.
Yeah. Even if he was on my lap, he would still do that.
Yeah.
Right.
But you would do your best to comfort him, and
Yeah.
Well, last weekend, was pretty cool because everybody got to come say goodbye to him. And the last weekend, when I say that he had a stroller, it's not like, oh, that's convenient in case we had to go. Einstein went everywhere in his stroller.
Yeah.
He's been down the boardwalk of all kinds of beaches.
Yeah.
And last weekend we went up to Yorktown Beach, and so last weekend alone we knew that it was coming. We had and so Friday we made the appointment for Monday morning. Yeah. And he had steak, and he had
rotisserie
chicken. I took him to Wendy's and he had a cheeseburger. And that's what I was saying. It's so funny because I was holding the cheeseburger for him and he ate it like a person. Like he'd turn his head, take a bite, and then look out the window and check things out. We gave him that on our way to the beach. He had some French fries. Yeah,
which are all things that he wouldn't get normally.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
He got he was on a very strict diet because he had such itchy skin and his body was so hot, and it wasn't worth it because it would make him miserable.
Yeah.
So he was on a very controlled, strict diet, and so.
No, that's from since we've had him.
Yeah.
Which we got him at 6 weeks or something.
Oh, 5 weeks old.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was 5 weeks old, and so. Anyway, the vet. Einstein was only 13 pounds, but like his energy could fill a room. He was just a character. So, the neighborhood that named him Sassy Pants. Just because he always had to have the last word.
Yeah.
And I just love him so much, and I'm just heartbroken without him. And I do think that there's a connection too that I feel like. It's been 4 months since Nana's gone. Well, she was my person, and he's my dog. So it's like those two connections that are super, super deep. Yeah. And I am so blessed and fortunate to have, humans and, animals around me that I love so much that are in my life. You, the top of the list. But I just think, I don't, I just feel like it's probably that losing both of my confidants, in 4 months is just really hard.
Yeah.
And, oh, thank you, honey. It's funny because you just reached over and you took my hand, and this is a podcast about you having autism.
Yeah.
And anybody that's listening out there, if you're ever told that your kid is never going to understand emotion or be connected to people, don't listen. Because there's always, always the possibility that your babies can begin to learn and then feel the emotion of connection with other people to that degree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's hard sometimes to recognize what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
To recognize, especially to recognize it in others.
Mm-hmm.
And there are times where I know what I need to do, and I feel like it's not enough, but it's too much or whatever, but it's what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is that, like just now, I know that you're feeling horrible. And you were still talking, so I didn't want to get up and hug you.
Yeah.
But I knew that you needed something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out and took your hand.
Mm-hmm. And it's so significant, and I think that people that listen to the podcast have heard this numerous times, that we point out that you're able to do these things that didn't come naturally to you. You never would have done that in the past. And years of therapy and of different sorts, and just the professionals in the family,
The
reinforcing,
I've made,
reinforcing that is just something that has stuck.
Yeah.
And so now, even though you feel like I'm not sure what to do, you do something.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's huge. And I want other people to, be encouraged by that. Because I was told you wouldn't do it. I was told you would never get to that point, that you would never understand emotions. You would never... The list goes on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge list of things that they said you wouldn't ever do.
Yeah.
And so my encouragement is that if you're being told that right now, don't give up.
Right.
Keep going until you find the caregivers and the support people and the doctors, the psychiatrists, the therapists, the wraparound services, the whomever they are, because a difference can be made.
Yeah.
And I don't care if you don't see, we didn't see it for a long time. And if you just stop, if you just give up, then there's no chance. And I mean, just look at you.
I know I'm good looking, but...
Oh my gosh, you are. You are.
Yeah, even joking like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even though it is kind of serious.
See? That was funny.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yes.
Yeah, but it's learned from experience and from being taught by everyone around me.
Mm-hmm.
And would you say that some of it started by mimicking things, or?
Probably, because I think that in the beginning, some of that is exactly what some of the therapies were doing. And as it was explained to me, is that while things would never probably come to you naturally, we can show you something and have you do that thing, and by us doing it, so they would teach us how to do transferring of skills. So they would teach us what to do, and then we would teach you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I think mimicking, when you see something enough and you see how that's done.
You called it a transfer. A transference of skills?
Yes, when the wraparound service was working with us when you were just a little tiny dude, that's what they referred to it. When they would come into the home, it was at school, it was at home, it was in the office, it was kind of like a 3, but then 4-prong, because you had a psychiatrist too.
Mm-hmm.
So, aside from wraparound services. And they call it transfer of skills because they would teach us the skills that we ultimately were teaching you. And so they were transferring them to us, and they were teaching us, and we were transferring them to you.
Yeah,
and
because they weren't there all the time.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so it was just through, when you say mimicking, I would say yes, because we would show you, and then you would understand, because eventually, out of the repetition of those things, so then yes, you would begin to mimic those. Yeah. Even though, and I would say that's a good way to describe it, because even though you weren't feeling it, right? Mm-hmm. So we've talked about this before. If somebody says, "How are you?"
I don't tell them my life story anymore.
But you did, right, and you didn't know that.
Yeah.
So, and which, by the way, I mean, we could certainly use with more connection with people right now, couldn't we?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, instead of that distance of just like, oh, I'm fine, thanks.
Yeah, instead of pleasantries.
Exactly. Yeah. About,
being real.
Yeah. Yeah. And, but yes, those are the things that we would actively we would participate in, and would actually bring you along to participate.
Yeah.
So you would mimic then, not that you felt it, not that you got it, but...
Yeah. And I believe that part of it was not just the mimicking, but through the mimicking of it was teaching me not just what was appropriate, but it also was to, through that, it made me understand the process, not just mentally, but just interpersonal as well,
mm-hmm.
of why it's done that way and how it's done that way.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what made it stop being mimicking.
Mm-hmm.
And taught me how to do it.
Can you say that again?
By originally mimicking what I was supposed to do,
mm-hmm.
by doing it enough, it showed me the intricacies of how it's done, and eventually why it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Which in around that point makes it stop being mimicry,
mm-hmm.
and become integrated into what I know to do.
Right. So it's yours.
Yes.
Right. It's not just copying something and now it's yours. You know.
Yes.
Okay. So you don't have to. They just when we were doing this, when we were teaching, they would say you just have to give him beats. You know what I mean? Like give him up to 10 beats, and just wait and give him the space to be able to process and then
be able to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if not, then show the behavior or the phrasing or the what have you, whatever we're working on again.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was in the processing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was huge. Was the processing time.
Mm-hmm.
That was not just in that scenario kind of thing. That was with everything growing up. I needed the time to process.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So let's go to a couple weeks ago when you didn't show up. I did a podcast without you, and I was pretty upset with you. And I think that I expressed how it's very difficult with you sometimes, because sometimes I get upset because I expect things of you, and then I don't quite really know, are you being, we'll just say, irresponsible, or are you not capable of doing it in that particular moment?
Mm-hmm.
Because one thing that I know about you is, and other people on the spectrum that I know,
mm-hmm.
is that you might have achieved a particular skill, and then or mastered that response, like that you just were describing so
right.
eloquently, and yet when things are aligned in a certain way, it's just gone. Like that's not part. You know what I mean? Like these things now you normally have. Like you normally possess the ability to participate in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when you feel overloaded and overwhelmed, where those things are the first to go, and you just don't show up.
Right.
And it was and I did this podcast a couple weeks ago without you, when I was just like so frustrated.
Yeah.
Just, where are you? You're supposed to be here. We were going to do a podcast. You didn't show up. You said you were going to be here. You're not here. Where are you? Why'd you say you're going to be here if you're not going to be here? And then there's the other side of me. It's like that thing where they show, like with somebody on each side of the shoulders, right?
The devil and the angel on the
yeah,
shoulders. Yeah.
Yes. It's like always, which one is it? Which one is it?
Yeah.
And that's how that feels for me, because as aggravated as I can get with you about those kinds of things and those moments where I was relying on you being here and then you just didn't show up,
mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just a perpetual place where I am right smack in the middle of not knowing which one is the culprit.
Right.
Because one thing that I know about you is that you are the kindest person that I know. You are the most thoughtful person that I know. And you would not deliberately blow someone off, even me, on purpose.
Especially you.
Well, because you've seen the wrath of Mama. But I don't think that the person, the man that you've become, that's not who you are.
Right.
And that's not something that I could have taught you. That's your character. Right? And so what it feels like and where I get aggravated is where sometimes that character is so reliable that then when I begin to just kind of not be so organized on your behalf and on top of the schedule and the reminders and the prompts and the redirects, when I'm not doing those so much and then you don't show up, it you know.
Yeah.
Well, I guess really, I think the reason I go back and forth, well, who's the one that really needs to have a talking to? Is it you, or is it me for setting things up in the same way all the time and
expecting a different outcome? Isn't that the definition of insanity?
Yep. That's what the other Einstein said. Yeah. So, right. It's interesting because a lot of times I think, and here's something that we haven't talked about really so much, is that when you have a reaction, not you, when people have a reaction to something, when you have an emotion that comes up because something has happened, somebody else said something, somebody else did something, somebody else didn't do something. Well, that really truly is about whatever you're feeling right then as a reaction. That's really about you. That's not about the person that did that thing or didn't do that thing.
Right.
And being very cognizant of that, I am aware of that, and so that the combination of being aware of that means I'm responsible for my own behaviors. Which means that if I have which means I need to go look at my own emotions. Where do they come from? How do I work through something? And the other thing is mixed with knowing your character, and then to be mad at you, and it's just like this thing of is it did you have sensory overload? I don't know, but anyway, it's all the combination that trips me up consistently.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense to you at all.
It does. It does.
Okay.
One thing I would like to add to that adds a whole nother depth to it, though.
Okay.
Is the circumstances that occur around it. And because sometimes it's not that. Let's talk about 2 weeks ago for the podcast.
Okay.
I know that I had been having extreme difficulty sleeping, and I had finally passed out, and then woke up to you calling me at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
After having so much trouble sleeping.
Yeah. For
days, and then I wake up to you calling me, and I understand that in the moment nobody really wants to hear this is why I didn't do this. People don't like hearing that. And for me, it's not just for me in any situation where I say I'm going to do something and it doesn't happen. it's not just other people looking at me and feeling disappointed or whatever. It's multiplied because I'm feeling that to myself. I'm disappointed in myself. And so it's not just frustrating to other people, it's more so to me.
It's exactly what I'm talking about. How am I supposed to stay mad at you? You know what I mean? Like, it's not. Yes, it's just very. It can be very frustrating for both of us when these things happen, and I really, at this, stage, you would think that I'd really have this, kind of a very solid understanding of it and not get in this predicament again. And so I think that it is time for that to change. And so I do need to make changes. And you need to make some changes, which we will work on, which will be some
specified at a later date.
Yes, but yes, but I think some stops that will, like some things to
mitigate.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say it's not just a reminder though, but
right.
Yeah, something so that we can stop this before it gets to that point.
Right.
Conversation, just something that we're going to have in place so that we have a clear understanding in conversation beforehand.
Yeah.
And what I said is that it seems like this happens when I've been so much work, or care for, whatever, Einstein has been the focus for a long time.
Yeah.
So that we're touching base before that time so that we both know what's happening.
Yeah.
Because that if you were to call me and say, I really have not been sleeping, so I'm going to go to sleep now, and I will set my alarm for whatever, and I'll be over later than normal, or whatever, then, that will be okay. It's a conversation that's necessary often in order for, at least for you and I, but I think, beyond you and I. And I think you're very considerate of other people. And so when those things happened, I guess what happens is I get so frustrated of like, oh, I thought this was, got through this. I thought, or it feels like, oh, here it is again.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, the dynamics of our relationship. I mean, the people listening to us, how many times have you heard this? Right? That it seems like it's the same, it's like Groundhog Day. Oh. Yeah. And so, I think that we need to, you and I will talk about this and come up with some things, Yeah. So what would you need, a reminder the day before? Just a check-in to say, are we still good for tomorrow?
That is helpful. Absolutely, yes.
And I will say that when that happens, you are consistent. And when I've been so busy with other things and haven't done it, I would say 99% of the time, that's when this happens.
Right.
And so we've talked before about, is there another way for you to be reminded or prompted without it being me that does it? Could you put a reminder in your phone that will come up See, I have an iPhone and you don't.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know exactly what yours does, but I can put a reminder in and it will come up. And so I have one for Nana
Mm-hmm.
that I still have in my phone. It doesn't go off, but it's still listed, and I won't delete it. And it says, call mom back. And and I'm,
Yeah.
because I'm a mush pot and can't get rid of that. It's, just like I kept all of her voice messages. I can't delete them, so it's nice to be able to hear a voice now and then.
Yeah.
But those kind of things are in a phone. They're called smartphones because they are able to do an awful lot.
Yeah.
And now you have a new tablet.
Yeah.
And which is wonderful because you're getting writing done, and so it's a really great tool for you.
Yeah.
But explore that and see what kind of reminders they have. When we have something set up, let's see when the reminder goes off. Let's do this. When your reminders go off, let me know that you've been reminded of your meeting.
Okay.
And if I don't hear from you, then I'm gonna call you and see and make sure. But let's try that instead of me contacting you and I'm the reminder.
Mm-hmm.
You set up your own reminder.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, you're going to have to figure out if you work the day before. You can't do it in the middle of work because you'll turn it off and you'll forget.
Right.
And that's something that you've said before. If you're reminded of something and you're in the middle of something else, you won't remember that you were reminded.
Right.
So.
Right, and that makes it really difficult.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Mm-hmm. So let's try that though. Let's try the reminder because you know what your work schedule is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And another thing that occurs, well, just to bring it up again, I guess. What can a solution be if it is something like what I said, where I couldn't get to sleep, and it's.
Well, I will say this. In 20 minutes, we have a telemed appointment with your psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that we're going to talk to her about.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you've been having trouble sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
You take melatonin now. Well, what is happening? I think that's certainly that the people that prescribe medications need to be told about a sleeping issue. You kind of always had trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
And so let's see what's happening. My first solution is no caffeine. It's hard for you, I know, but no tablet before you go to bed. I know that you love reading, but get an actual book. And read from the actual book instead of, because there's been some studies that show that the screen affects your sleeping. So those are the two things I would say: is no caffeine, no screen time, and because I know that you have gut issues, no food right before bed.
Mm.
So, I've said those things to you many times. I can't make you.
I stopped drinking anything that has caffeine in it after 6:30.
We'll bump it up earlier, maybe. Try that. Just try it. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
See if it makes a difference. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a uh-huh? Okay. Your language, right, is uh-huh, meaning you heard me, or uh-huh, I'm going to try that.
I don't know if I can do that.
Okay.
Mainly because 6:30 is the latest I eat dinner. And
could you have water with dinner? The look on your face. It's like your heart broken. Yeah. Yeah.
I have stopped drinking things that have sugar in them and stuff like that after that time. But
Yeah. I mean, it's whatever you've lost probably 30 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look fantastic.
Thanks.
Um,
Praise me some more. No. No. Yeah, it's the things that come up that I don't know what to do, how to deal with, that really trip me up.
What do you mean?
Like with this, what we're talking about now, as an example, where I'm trying to find out more information of what I can do in different scenarios, so that I'm not.
Do you mean like what can be contributing to a problem or an issue?
Future solutions to possible future issues.
Oh, yeah, that's really hard for you, right? Because it's not right now.
Well, it's the opposite. I think of so many different things that can happen that I try and plan for it, and the ones that I don't, that whenever things do come up that I don't have a plan for or an idea of what to do in that situation, I have real difficulties dealing with those kind of situations that pop up.
Mm-hmm. Is it because it's not concrete?
It's that I don't know how to go forward.
Okay.
It's that I have a lot of, in my head, I have a lot of things where it's, if this happens, then I can do this. But if something happens that I don't have any plan for, or that I can't adapt a current plan that's similar to, it really throws me off.
Okay.
And so that's one of the things I've tried to do, is gather so much more information for different scenarios. And so that's what I was just doing, was trying to find out, what can I do if it is late at night and I still can't fall asleep or whatever, and I have something I have to do. And you're saying call you, but it's early in the morning, and I don't want to call you that early. And so just things like that. Just trying to gather more information.
Right. So it can just feel overwhelming, and then you just it's kind of like a snowball.
Yeah.
I get it. Which makes it very difficult being mad at you. That's another reason, because it's the way I always think, and it's just that I don't believe that you do things deliberately to, for example, to not show up or to not,
right.
It's just, that's not who you are.
Right.
And so while I might get upset about it, it's not, and I know you beat yourself up for it, and, you're just trying to find solutions. So I'm saying me getting upset with you, like the podcast I did a couple weeks ago, was I upset with you? Yes. The reason I did the podcast without you is because sometimes it's hard feeling like I'm always, if I'm not always available and present, then some things fall through the cracks.
Right.
And that can feel frustrating.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I'm mad at you per se, but the situation happening the way that it does, repeatedly over our lifetimes, can feel very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
Well, we have to get going, because we have to get on the
appointment.
Yes, get the computer all set up and everything for the telemed appointment. Yeah. So thank you for sharing it the way that you did, because I think it's super important.
Yeah.
And I will just leave with sharing the way that something that happened with Einstein.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that he left in a very peaceful way. Your dad and I were with him. I was holding him. Dad was petting him. And he had made such an impact that everybody at the vet's office, people weren't even taking care of him that day. They all just kind of, the stream of people coming in. One person came in with a container of chopped up hot dogs. And so he ate some hot dogs. Another person came with a tray that she made of peanut butter. And it was he loved
whipped cream.
Yeah, whipped cream. So she made like a heart out of whipped cream. Because he used to get, because Einstein, when I say he's spoiled rotten, Einstein used to get laser therapy on his hips. He also got acupuncture. Mm-hmm. And so Einstein was, was there. He made an impact. Well, people would come in. Some of them, like with tears in their eyes, would say, "I love you, Einstein. I'm going to miss you." Others came in to give hugs. The other vets that weren't even, they came in.
Yeah.
And to say goodbye and to give hugs and stuff. Well, I wanted to say this, and then we'll go. That all these things just showered love on him, and they have a sign there. They have a big bowl of Hershey chocolate kisses. And the sign says, everybody should have a taste of chocolate before they leave. And the vet said that sometimes, the tech said that sometimes the pups don't want the chocolate. They don't eat it. It's a thing we try to keep away from them their whole lives because it's so bad for them. But then sometimes they just don't want it at the end.
Yeah.
Well, little hog Einstein ate 4 Hershey Kisses before he left.
Oh.
And I just want to say that he left with so much love. And it was just very, very, very difficult, but what an amazing send-off. So, on that note, we're going to go. Oh, another hug. Thank you. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. I'm not going to bother about all the stuff we usually do. Hug each other. If you have pets, give them a kiss for us.
Yeah.
And we will chat again next week. Love you.
Bye.